This hatred will be still further magnified by the effects of an economic crisis which will stop dealings on the exchanges and bring the industry to a standstill. We shall create a universal economic crisis whereby we shall throw upon the streets whole mobs of workers simultaneously in all countries of Europe. This is from the Protocols of the Wise Men of Zion, which many aspects of this plan have since become reality, which seems to validate its authenticity. But this book, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, the Protocols of the Meetings of the Learned Elders of Zion, is a fabricated text supposedly describing a Jewish plan for global domination. It is a hoax, so don't believe it, but the copy that I am reading from is from William Cooper's Behold a Pale Horse, and this is an interesting book, but in this part of it we're just going to inspect the protocols here. The last thing I would want to do is talk bad about people from a certain country or people of a certain religion. So the first thing I need to do is ask the question, who is a Jew? I myself didn't understand a clear answer to this question, even growing up as a non-denominational Christian, and I was really taught that Jews were God's people from Israel, and they followed a little bit of a different religion called Judaism, but I didn't understand too much about that or why they didn't believe in Jesus Christ. Now, a lot of our family friends growing up were Jewish people who practiced Judaism. So I remember a lot of times celebrating Hanukkah around Christmas time and celebrating Passover and eating that lamb meat and the matzah bread. So I'm the furthest thing from somebody who doesn't like Jewish people or who wouldn't like Judaism. I have no problem with it, and I practically grew up around that. However, the book that we're talking about, Protocols of the Wise Men of Zion, is supposedly against Jews. So I wanted to answer the question, who is a Jew? And this turns out to be an ancient question with no single timeless answer. On one hand, being Jewish is a matter of religion, and then on the other hand, being Jewish may be a matter of ancestry, ethnicity, and cultural background. Now, the earliest definition of a Jew that I can find basically comes from the Torah, and that is the 12 tribes of Israel, which descended from the 12 sons of the patriarch Jacob, who was later named Israel. Now, 10 of the tribes were lost or sent to Arzareth, which is in Tartaria. So the lost 10 tribes have been identified in numerous historical sources as the Tartarians. So this blog post on my site covers that, and there's also a video about it. But the other 2 tribes of Israel were not lost, the tribes of Judah and the tribes of Benjamin. Now, eventually, these people were subjected to Babylonian captivity, and when the captivity ended, the distinction between the tribe of Benjamin and the other tribes in the kingdom of Judah were lost in favor of a common identity as the Jews. So one definition for a Jew is someone who is a descendant of the tribe of Benjamin or a descendant of the tribe of Joseph. In either case, I don't have a problem with any of those people. However, I don't think there's an Ancestry.com that's going to tell you if you're a descendant of the tribe of Benjamin or a descendant of the tribe of Joseph. So when you try to answer the question, who is a Jew, it doesn't seem that there's a very clear answer whatsoever, and it's a very generalized and overused term. But you sure as better heck not insult a Jew, even though it's difficult to even define who one is. So here's my interpretation of it, and if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. If you're born in Israel, I would call you an Israeli. I have never and will never discriminate against people based on the longitude and latitude where they came out of the womb. If you think that you're a descendant of the tribe of Benjamin or Joseph, I'm not going to discriminate against you, but I know you can't prove it, so you can believe whatever you want. And if as an adult you've chosen that you want to follow the religion of Judaism, I would probably call that the common day Jew. I absolutely don't have a problem with people who want to live by the rules of the Torah. Sometimes I think there's more truth in those older books, even the Book of Enoch, than there are in some of the newer ones like the New Testament. Now, the Protocols of the Wise Men of Zion are going to claim that a group of people called the Jews are planning for some type of world domination, economic domination, etc. They are not talking about any of the previous three groups of people we've discussed. It is talking about a wholly different people. This comes from not only my own understanding of the protocols, but also from the book, Behold a Pale Horse. Let's look at what William Cooper wrote. Any reference to Jews should be replaced with the word Illuminati. Now, the word Illuminati is way overused and misunderstood today. I think there's a better definition for this, and that would probably be a high-ranking Freemason, most likely from Israel. The roots of Freemasonry can be traced back to Israel, and we'll discuss that in this video. And also, there's indicators that modern-day Freemasonry's headquarters is definitely in Israel. The fact that all Freemason lodges have a checkered floor because they're copying Solomon's temple is an indicator that the greatest and grandest of all Freemason lodges would in fact be located in Jerusalem, where the original King Solomon's temple and checkered floor was built. So to be very clear, when the protocols say Jew, my interpretation of that is a higher ranking Freemason, most likely from Israel. And if you take offense to that because you're a high ranking Freemason from Israel, then I'm not apologizing. If this video in any way gets flagged for being anti this or anti that, then you clearly haven't paid attention to the subject material. Or just perhaps the Freemasons are using anti-Semitism as a powerful tool to censor information which is critical of their organization. So the leaders of this secret society, Freemasonry, are the Wise Men of Zion. And that's who's being described here. So let's take a look at the protocols and see if they're a complete hoax or if it's more of a description of current events in today's society. So I'm just going to look at real quick pieces of protocols 1, 2, and 3, starting with protocol 1. What I'm about to set forth then is our system from which two points of view, that of ourselves and that of the Goyim, or the non-Jews, and this could be understood as the non-Freemasons.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
It must be noted that men with bad instincts are more in number than good, and therefore the best results in governing them are attained by violence and terrorism, not by academic discussions. In our day, the power which has replaced that of the rulers who were liberal is the power of gold.
They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets.
He who wishes to rule must have recourse both to cunning and to make-believe. Great national qualities like frankness and honesty are vices in politics, for they bring down rulers from their thrones more effectively and more certainly than the most powerful enemy.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
Such qualities must be the attributes of the kingdoms of the Goyim. Our power will be more invincible than any other because it will remain invisible until the moment when it has gained such strength that no cunning can no longer undermine it. Behold the alcoholic animals bemused with drink, the right to an immoderate use of which comes along with freedom. It is not for us and ours to walk that road. The people of the Goyim are bemused with alcoholic liquors. Their youth have grown stupid on classicism, and from this early immortality into which it has been inducted by our special agents. Our countersign is force and make-believe. Only force conquers in political affairs, especially if it be concealed in the talents of essential statesmen. Violence must be the principle, and cunning and make-believe the rule for governments which do not want to lay down the crowns at the feet of agents of some new power. This evil is one of the only means to attain the end, the good. Therefore, we must not stop at bribery, deceit, and treachery where they should serve towards the attainment of our end. Our state, marching along the path of peaceful conquest, has the right to replace the horrors of war by less noticeable and more satisfactory sentences of death, necessary to maintain the terror which tends to produce blind submission. Not only for the sake of gain, but also for the name of duty, for the sake of victory, we must keep the program of violence and make-believe. Therefore, it is not so much by the means themselves as by the doctrine of severity that we shall triumph and bring all governments into subjection of our supergovernment. Far back in ancient times, we were the first to cry among the masses of the people the words liberty, equality, fraternity, words many times repeated since those days by stupid poll parrots. Have you not seen that in nature there is no equality? There cannot be freedom, that nature herself has established inequality of minds, of characters, and capacities, just as immutably as she has established subordination of her laws? In all corners of the earth, the words liberty, equality, and fraternity brought to our ranks, thanks to our blind agents, whole legions who bore our banners with enthusiasm. And all the time these words were cankerworms at work, boring into the well-being of the Goyim, putting an end everywhere to peace, quiet, solidarity, and destroying all the foundations of the Goy states. It is indispensable for our purpose that war, so far as possible, should not result in territorial gains. War will thus be brought onto the economic ground. The administrators, whom we shall choose from among the public, with strict regard for their capacities of servile obedience, will not be persons trained in the arts of government, and will therefore easily become pawns in our game in the hands of men of learning and genius, who will be their advisors, specialists bred and reared from early childhood to rule the affairs of the whole world.
The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice.
For let them that play the principal part which we have persuaded them to accept as the dictates of scientific theory. It is with this object in view that we are constantly, by means of our press, arousing a blind confidence in these theories. The intellectuals of the Goyim will puff themselves up with their knowledge, and without any logical verification of it, will put into effect all the information available from science, which our agents or specialists have cunningly pieced together for the purpose of educating their minds in the direction we want.
There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that.
Do not suppose for a moment that these statements are empty words. Think carefully of the successes we have arranged for Darwinism, Marxism, and Nietzscheism. Alright, so you guys want to see something really weird? This is Pythagoras with his Pythagorean theorem. And, of course, with the globe right here, which you use the Pythagorean theorem to prove a globe.
All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy.
It is in the press that the triumph of the freedom of speech finds its incarnation. But the Goyim states have not known how to make use of this force, and it has fallen into our hands. Through the press we have gained the power to influence while remaining ourselves in the shade.
Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about troubling and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
plaguing our country.
the sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think.
Thanks to the press, we have got the gold in our hands, notwithstanding that we have had to gather it out of oceans of blood and tears. But it has been paid, though we have sacrificed many of our people. Each victim on our side is worth, in the sight of God, 1,000 goyim. Protocol 3. Today I might tell you that our goal is now only a few steps off. There remains a small piece to cross, and the whole long path we have trodden is ready to now close its cycle of the symbolic snake by which we symbolize our people. When this ring closes, all the states of Europe will be locked in its coil as a powerful vice. Okay, the circle symbol of a snake they reference, which represents their people, is called an Ouroboros. And if you search for that in connection to Freemasonry, you'll find a lot of official Masonic websites like this one, Masonic Trowel, MasonicInformation.com, Serpent Worshipry and Freemasonry. The law symbols of Freemasonry, Ouroboros. The serpent from Freemasonry. British Columbia. Ouroboros from YorkRite.org. So this is definitely a symbol that the Freemasons themselves use. There's no hoax about any of this. And if you click to learn more and start reading on some of these Masonic websites, you of course can find out the meaning of the snake to them and how they love the Egyptian symbology. And here we have from an ancient alchemical text relating to the manufacture of gold. So alchemy, they've said already in this document that they have all of the gold. I wonder if there's any relevance to the fact that they may be using alchemy to create gold, and that's part of the reason why science is something that they have to be keeping for themselves. And here we go. We get the double triangle of Solomon, represented by two ancients of the Kabbalah. This is the good and the bad of Solomon. And I thought this was interesting. It's made by Eliphas Levi and Transcendental Magic, 1896. Well, Transcendental Magic's one way to say it. The other way to say it is, here's the book cover. Dogma and Ritual of the High Magic by Eliphas Levi. And here you can see the Ouroboros symbology. There is, of course, a Star of David right here in the reflection, an iron cross, another Star of David. So I thought it's worth a peek just to see what kind of a character this guy is. And he's an occult author, ceremonial magician. Okay, that sounds great. And of course, movements, Freemasonry. So right here we have a clear connection between Freemasonry and the occult. But let's look at some of this guy's work. Look at, he's an artist. Can you imagine that? We got Baphomet in his book, Dogma and Ritual of the High Magic from 1856. And let's take note right here. This is the statue that Moses made. God told him to make it. A statue with snakes wrapping around it so that his people could be healed from the fiery serpents that were attacking and killing them. And that's one of the only times that God commanded man to make an idol that they basically worshipped for healing. It's called Neshutan, and you could see it right here coming from the private part of Baphomet in the same shape as a phallus. And Neshutan, okay, the Moses was commanded to make by God. You can see it right here. This is the same symbol that you see in connection with pharmacies and doctors. And you'll also notice that people like Tom Hanks' son right here have it tattooed onto their chest. So interesting, just something interesting to note there. I don't know the connection between Baphomet and Neshutan and Moses and God telling him to make this, but it's something to recognize. We got a pentagram on the forehead. And a couple things to notice. Of course, you got the Star of David right here, as it would appear in the reflection. There's, of course, another one right here, which is made from Solomon's arms in the reflection. We can notice the all-seeing eye down here with the 10,000 rays of light. The other place you might recognize that nowadays is right about there. Ouroboros surrounding it. Now let's go ahead and open up this book and flip to one of the pages, this one. So since these are one piece of work, let's see if it has any connection to current day Freemasonry. Because these guys wouldn't be involved in anything satanic or magical, would they? Okay, we got the all-seeing eye right here. That's also right there. So we got one match. Here's the Star of David. There's another one right here. There's a second match. All right, up here we have a pentagram. I'll go ahead and enlarge that. And see where else we have a pentagram. There's a match right there. Okay, pentagram. Okay, so Mr. Levi, who was into occult, black magic, high magic, whatever you want to call it, with a connection to Ouroboros and the Freemasons, as well as, I hate to say it, but the Jews. And we look at current day, we are seeing all the exact same symbology. I have no other conclusion to draw other than these guys are involved with the occult black magic. Any connection at all between Freemasons, occult black magic, and Israel? None that I can see, that's for sure. All people are chained down to heavy toil by poverty more firmly than they were ever chained by slavery. One way or another they might free themselves, but from want they will never get away. We have included in the Constitution such rights as to the masses appear fictitious and not actual rights. These so-called people's rights can exist only in idea, and an idea which can never be realized in practical life. These pitiful crumbs which we fling from our table in return for their voting in favor of what we dictate, in favor of the men we place in power, the servants of our agentur.
The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't.
The Goyim have lost the habit of thinking unless prompted by the suggestion of our specialists. Therefore, they do not see the urgent necessity of what we, when our kingdom comes, shall adopt at once, namely this, that it is essential to teach in national schools one simple true piece of knowledge, the basis of all knowledge, the knowledge of the structure of human life, of social existence, which requires division of labor and consequently the division of men into classes and conditions.
You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork.
The true knowledge of the structure of society, into the secrets of which we do not admit to the Goyim, would demonstrate to all men that the positions and work must be kept within a certain circle, that they may not get an education which does not correspond with the work which individuals are called upon to do. After a thorough study of this knowledge, the people will voluntarily submit to authority and accept such position as appointed to them in the state. In the present state of knowledge and directions we have given to the people, they will blindly believe things in print, thanks to promptings intended to mislead them, and a blind hatred towards all conditions which they consider above themselves, for they have no understanding of the meaning of class and condition. This hatred will still further be magnified by the effects of an economic crisis which will stop dealings on the exchanges and bring the industry to a standstill. We shall create a universal economic crisis whereby we shall throw upon the streets whole mobs of workers simultaneously in all countries of the world. Remember the French Revolution, to which it was we who gave the name Great. The secrets of its preparations are well known to us, for it was wholly the work of our hands. At the present day, we are, as an international force, invincible, because if attacked by some, we are supported by other states. And I'm just going to do a quick sneak peek on Protocol 4. Gentile Masonry blindly serves as a screen for us and our objectives, but the plan of action of our force, even its very abiding place, remains for the whole people an unknown mystery. So we can see there's a clear distinction between actual Freemasonry and what some guy's uncle did, which is Gentile Masonry.
Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that.